Today we have the pleasure of being joined by Chris Barlow. He's Customer Happiness Director at Beeline Incorporated. As also the founder of Beeline, Chris is grateful to help nonprofits like you use digital marketing to multiply the reach of their mission and to grow their donors. So, most of all, and I think most impressively, he's grateful to be a dad to 8 kids and to teach them how to live in a way that multiplies good in others. So, with that, Chris, I will pass it over to you so you can kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. Let me pull up my slides here. Thank you for joining today, taking the time out of your surely busy afternoon, to be here. And I'm excited to get to talk to you about monthly donors and getting new ones this month, this next quarter, Q2. We're almost there, surprisingly. The year is off to a quick start for me and probably for you too. Um, and I want to tell a story. When I was in college and dating my now wife, Lydia, we were at the point where we were fairly serious, knew we wanted to get engaged, but there was something standing in the way, which was talking to her dad and getting his blessing on the whole idea before moving forward. And I I wanted to honor her parents and her dad's wishes, and so if for some reason he was like no, I wouldn't have taken that as like no, never, but like okay, we can't move forward right now. So I was a little bit I was very nervous, and I'd only met him once. Lydia's from Germany, so we met in the States, and I'd only met her dad one time, and on a single day afternoon, and basically his feedback to her was like, oh, he's too young. And as a now 20 years later, I'd have to agree with him. I think I was too young. So I was studying abroad in Hong Kong, and I had to call him to get his blessing and share my request um for her hand. And um I was super nervous, of course, and I had never done this before. And instead of like really taking some time to think through what I wanted to say, I just was like, I'm so nervous. I knew like the time zone differences. I had his office number that Lydia had given me. I'm just like, I'm calling. I'm not going to think twice about it. I'm just calling. Like, just like jumping into icy cold water. I don't even want to think about it. And so after he said hi, I just blurted out the whole thing. And we had a good conversation in the end. But I share this story because I think if I had actually taken a little bit of time, even to like write down my why did I want to marry Lydia? Why now? Why did I want his blessing on this? How I would, how his thoughts about the matter mattered to me and his input. Um, I think I would have felt a lot less nervous, and I would have felt really even excited to have the conversation instead of just like super anxious. And I think that this knowing our why is really, really important for monthly donors. And I'm going to talk a lot about that. So in this session today, we're going to cover the most common or top barrier that blocks monthly donor growth and how to overcome it. And I'll explain why I think it's the top. There's a lot of significant challenges we all face to getting monthly donors, but I'm going to highlight one in particular that's common. And then how your donors can help you be more effective in writing your appeals to get more monthly donors. How your donors can help you with that process to be irresistible. And then we're going to look at 4 strategies to get new monthly donors in Q2 this year. And we'll go through each one of those, and we're going to end with a campaign that you can implement in next month to convert new donors and one-time donors into monthly donors. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. And I'm going to share my contact information later so that if you have any questions that don't get answered, you can just email me. And don't feel like I'm going to reply to you with a sales pitch. Like, I want you to get the most value out of this. And if you have a question that doesn't get answered, I'm going to do my best to answer it for you. And you're taking the time out of your day for this. So really, I want you to get what you came for as best as I can give it. And with federal funding disappearing or being really unstable, we are turning to individual donors to pick up the slack. And there's everywhere you turn, there's more and more talk about monthly donors. And that's because individuals who donate one time are not a fix to your funding and sustainability challenges. Funding and sustainability don't come from one-time donors. But before we talk about the barriers to getting monthly donors, let's just talk a little bit more about why they're important in the first place, monthly donors. And again, some of this might be obvious. Some of it is common sense, right? But here's some data. The average one-time donor retention rate is 45%. So we spend a lot of time and money finding and acquiring new donors, and we're going to lose more than half of them. This is really discouraging. This creates this issue that we have of always having to invest a lot in acquisition, which we need to do. But if we could retain uh, a lot more of those donors, we would actually have we'd have sustainability. And so on the other side of the equation, monthly donors retain at over 80%. About a year ago, it was like 90%. Now it's between 80 and 90%. And I think that it's going to be pretty stable in a very high retention rate. I mean, we're talking about twice as high retention rate for monthly donors. On average, monthly donors stay about 5 years with a nonprofit, sometimes longer. That's obviously average. And they give about 42% more on average. And I think that's primarily because monthly donors will often give one-off gifts. So why, if this is so important, why is it so hard to do this? How can we do this? Well, I want to ask a question, and I'd love for you to put your answers in the chat. Um, and this question is, we're not going to get into the science of or the psychology behind it, but I just want to see what your answers are for fun, because it's related to that barrier. What helps people decide to give to your organization? Just in your own words, what do you think helps people make that decision? I'm going to give to you. I want to see what you guys think or what you have personally. Emotion, storytelling, compelling message, yeah, connection to the mission, personal experience. They want to make change, their relationships, compassion, stewardship. Yep. Someone asked them to. The ability, tax write-offs, beliefs. Yeah, this is great. I mean, these are all correct, of course. I'm going to share my two answers, and they're more specific than these because again, everything you guys are answering are the reasons people choose to give to you. But my two responses to this is your value proposition, and I'm going to define what I mean by that. And ultimately, your donors are the experts on why they choose to give to you. And so we should be asking them why they are giving. And I want to back up my answers, particularly the value proposition, with some data. So the company Next After did an experiment where on a donation page, they tested a form with the donation form with no value proposition, just blank form, against one with a one sentence value proposition telling the donor why they should give monthly instead of once. Everything else was identical. And that simple one sentence value proposition, not even going into any more depth than that, increased recurring giving by 456%. Now, of course, not everyone is going to see that kind of huge result from a single sentence. But let's look at another example. They tested a donation form with a value proposition against one where they removed it and just said, if we remove the sentence, what difference does it make? Well, removing the value proposition, which was specific for monthly and telling people why they should give monthly, it reduced donor conversion overall by 40%. And again, these are just two pieces of data, right? There's a lot more out there, though. A lot of data out there that will support the value of your value proposition to attract one-time and recurring donors. So common sense tells us that it's vital. Data shows it's vital. Why are we doing it? Well, I think a lot of organizations they've taken the time to explain or think about their why, and on their donation page or in their email appeals, they do say why people should give. But we haven't always taken the time to explain why it's in our donors' best interests to give, and particularly to give monthly. 58% of nonprofits have no unique reason why someone should give monthly instead of once. So we've taken the time to think through our general why, but not through why someone should give in a recurring basis. So that is what I want to address first and foremost. How do we overcome this barrier of being specific in the donor's interest why they should give monthly? Before I get into that and before I define what I mean by value proposition a little bit more clearly, I want to just mention this in case you have to leave early. Again, here's my email address. You can just send me a question. Again, no sales pitch, though we'll be coming back to you. I'd be happy to just try to answer your question. Or you can get our free ebook, How to Use Digital Marketing to Find New Donors. Just go to the URL or use the QR code. So just a quick moment. If you have to leave early, of course, you'll get the recording. But if you have something, you need something more specific question that I don't answer, I'd love to help you if I can. So what is a value proposition? It's the answer to this question. Why should I give to you rather than to any other cause or not at all and buy something for myself? So again, I think most nonprofits do answer this question at some level, but we don't consistently, or we haven't always taken enough time to think through, why should I give a recurring gift to you instead of one time and rather than to some other organization or not at all? And here's something that's interesting that I don't think gets talked a lot about in this industry. Um, we as nonprofits are in part competing with for-profit companies for people's disposable income. And for a consumer, if I'm going to buy, say, some chocolate, I don't need the company to give me a value proposition about why I should buy some chocolate. Like, it's obvious. Now, they might need to differentiate their product from other people, the other companies that sell chocolate. So there is some element of value proposition there. But generally, if I pay money for chocolate, I know exactly what I'm getting. It's an immediate surface level fulfillment of my desire. But what we're offering as nonprofits is usually a lot less tangible. Occasionally some nonprofits, like it's a museum, you're purchasing tickets to go to the museum. There's an element of direct return, but that's earned revenue. Why should someone support your museum outside of just going to it, right? There's an element of what you're offering is less tangible. It's built on trust, and donors aren't often our direct recipients. So they have to rely on our storytelling, on our reports to see the fulfillment of the trust they're placing in us to come to pass. And that's why we need a really clear value proposition that's in the donor's interests so they can see why they should give to us, and particularly why they should give a monthly gift to us, why they should give recurring to us. And I want to give a few examples of ways we can make it unique for monthly donors, just to get our ideas started here. Here's a few things we can say. We can talk about how the donor can make a long-term impact, make an impact across the entire year, every day, every month, however you want to put it. Another important one that's in their interest is you can ensure that we have the resources in place to respond urgently as things come up. Instead of having to do an urgent appeal and then hoping we get the funds in place to respond, we already have a slush fund. We already have a fund set aside from our ongoing monthly donors that's ready. A really huge one that's in the donor's interest is more of your donation as a monthly donor will go toward impact instead of fundraising because of the huge amount of budgeting and forecasting we can do when we have people who commit. Even again, it's not about the amount of money. It's the fact that they've committed as a monthly donor. We can put a lot more of our time and planning into budgeting and planning and making the mission come to life rather than just saying, can we fund this? Another one is a recurring gift just makes it easier for you. Just make it automatic. You don't have to think about it. If this is something you want to keep doing, just make it automatic. Don't like have to remind yourself to keep doing it however often you want to do it. And then finally, and this is tied to that, is if this is part of who you are, if this is something that is core to your values as a person, then you can live it out by making it something you do all the time, not just something that you do when you think of it or at year end when it's tied to like a tax write-off. Nothing wrong with the tax write-off, but that's not really the ultimate reason. That might be the like impetus for someone to like make the decision, okay, I'm going to do it now, but that's not the why, the reason people are choosing to give. It's for their identity and value. And so that's what we want to really pull out in some of the unique ways we can, express our monthly donor value proposition. Let me share a few more examples from actual clients of ours. I'll talk about them really briefly. So the first and third one, Connected Families, North Shore Animal League, they're very similar. And these are just one sentence value propositions. You can go into, a couple paragraphs on a donation page or in an email. So change the trajectory of a family every month. Okay. They just add the every month element. North Shore says the best way to save animals year round. So you care about saving animals. This is the best way to do it. And you can do it all the time. I think my favorite in these examples here is Roots because it's very, very specific. It says we're a global community. So it's talking on the identity level to the donor. So you want to be part of a global community of monthly donors people who want to create lasting change in Ethiopia. So we're about long-term lasting change. Um, One student and one mother at a time. Okay, this isn't a capital campaign. We're not trying to raise $1 million for a school. We're wanting to change one life at a time. And by doing that, create long-term change. That's who we are. Do you belong with us? So, okay, these are all ideas on how you can begin to write a monthly donor proposition value proposition that is in the donor's interest. But how will we know if it's going to resonate? How can we communicate in a way that our donors respond to? Well, let me answer that by asking a different question. Who is the expert on why your donors give? We might think that we came up with something that's compelling, but if our donors read it and they don't give, is it really compelling? We need a way to step into our donors' shoes and think, and learn what are they thinking? How do they feel about what I'm saying? What's motivating them? What concerns do they have about us or about what we're saying? Why did they choose to give? Now, you might remember when I asked the question at the beginning, why do people give to us? The first was because they resonate with our value proposition, our appeal. When we tell them why they should give, they agree. But the second answer I said was, in the end, our donors are the experts on why they give. So the key to many things in marketing, including a powerful value proposition and in fundraising, is active listening. If we ask our donors questions and listen to them and invite them to tell us what's important to them, we'll learn their feelings, their motivations, the words that they use to describe what's important. And so if we can use that strategy or that principle of active listening, we can have a good, effective value proposition, donation pages that convert at a higher rate, and emails that are engaging, ads that are engaging. We can be responsive to people. We can actually create a two-way conversation by simply listening. Now, I do a webinar on this whole thing in and of itself, but it's so key to helping us be effective in writing a good value proposition for monthly donors, particularly. I wanted to highlight this, and there's one strategy in particular I'm going to point out. Again, there's a lot of different ways we can apply this across our fundraising and marketing. But one of my favorite one is to apply active listening is to have a post-donation survey. So on that thank you page, after someone's completed a donation, we have a embedded survey right on that page. And then we ask them, we'd love to hear from you. What method of communication do you prefer? A great way to segment people early on. Say, okay, these people, they want to hear from email. These people, they want to get texts from us. Not that you can't send people multiple forms of communication, but that you know how to engage them, especially for your fundraising team. And then the key question is that second one. Why did you choose to give to our organization today? And I like asking this right when they finished a donation because it's on their mind. They can think about what was going through their mind, what they felt, what was the thing that they read in your communications that made them decide, I'm going to do this today. And then the second two questions are optional. I love them because they help identify donors, even new ones, who are actually people your fundraising team should be in contact with. If someone tells you what their mission is for your organization, or if they tell you if they want to share their personal story of connection to your mission or ways they think you can improve, these are really engaged people. These are potentially people who are mid-level or major donors because they are thinking about your mission at a different level. They're coming from an ownership perspective. And that's what you want. You want donors who own your mission because we're just stewards. No, as the nonprofits, we're just the steward of the donor's money and they're the owners. They're the philanthropist. And so if we can ask these kinds of questions and identify people early on, even with a $100 gift, you might be identifying people that your fundraising team should be talking to personally. So use what you learn in this post donation survey, especially collate all the answers you get. Why did you choose to give to our organization today? And use the words, the language, the emotions to write your monthly donor donation page, your value proposition, all those things. So we've explored very common barrier to why we're not getting as many monthly donors as we could be, how to write that value proposition effectively and resonate with them. So let's get into some specifics now on what we can do next month in Q2 to get more monthly donors. So let's look at 4 strategies. Here's the strategy that I want to look at. Should you start by trying to get monthly donors first as their first interaction donation with you, or get them to give once and then upgrade them? And then, second to that, should you try to upgrade when should you try to upgrade one-time donors into monthly donors? Is there a certain time that makes sense? And then third, let's look at some strategies to optimize the donation experience for monthly donations. Um, and then finally, I'm going to go through a campaign, an email campaign that you can launch now to start converting those one-time donors, those new donors into recurring. So let's start with the first one. Should you try to get people as one-time or recurring as their first donation? Well, in this graph, which is again from next after, you can see you have over the past 5 years, the average lifetime value of people who gave as a recurring donor first versus people who upgraded. They started as a one-time donor and then they upgraded. So if you look at the 5-year average, the lifetime value of people who upgraded was 36% higher, is what it happens to be on the whole. However, as you can see, the increase in value has been going down every year. And I don't know exactly why this is. It could be because people are more used to being asked to become monthly donors, or they already are. And so they are more used to managing their recurring gifts and changing who they're supporting. Whatever the reason is, the reason I point this out is things could change in terms of lifetime value, whether people donate once and then upgrade or they start as a monthly donor. The important thing is to keep experimenting and to keep looking at that lifetime value. And this leads us directly into the next thing I wanted to share is when should you ask first-time donors or one-time donors to become recurring? And this graph from the Wave Report by Dave Rayleigh, who is an expert on sustainable giving, shows that the longer you wait to ask or to try to get someone to convert, the less likely they are to convert to a recurring donor. And I like his hypothesis. Dave says or believes that when a donor is new, they haven't yet established a habit or expectation for how they're going to give. It's much easier to start a habit when they are new and they're not set in their ways. I agree with this. So we want to convert people sooner than later. That doesn't mean you can't later. You just have to make a really clear explanation of why their pattern of giving one-time gifts it's more in their interest to change that pattern, right? We just have to do more work to really communicate that message to people. But if you can convert them soon after their first gift or at the beginning, they're more likely to upgrade. So how should we do that? How can we optimize the donation experience? I want to talk a few different ways we can optimize this experience. There's no one right answer. There's a couple important principles I hope come through as I go through these different ideas, but don't feel like, I mean, you can't even implement all of them. So it's just whatever you feel works best for your organization and also for the technology you're using. So the most important principle, I think, or one of the 2 most important principles here is to give people the choice. I don't think it's actually in your interest to default people to a monthly gift unless they went to a monthly donation page and that's the entire point of the entire page. Then the donation form can be defaulted to monthly, right? That's what you've been saying across the entire page. But your general donation form, most donation forms should be defaulted to one time and then highlight the option to convert or to switch to a monthly gift. And there's a couple different ways you can do that to highlight the way they can switch over to monthly. And I do like that the Bonterra form says increase your impact, give monthly. That's a very, very short sentence. There's not a lot of A lot of it detail there, but it is saying you will increase your impact. Um, so you're giving people the choice up front. And the reason I think this is so important is if we default people to monthly, one, that might not be what they are expecting. And so it can feel like, wait, are you just asking me for more money? And I'm not ready to commit. Like now I have to like click and downgrade. And I feel like less good about my gift or like you're trying to push me into something I don't want. Whereas if you give people the choice, they're probably going to be more likely to stick with you longer if they get to choose. If they get that opportunity to say, yeah, I want to do this monthly. I get this. I get why I would want to do this. So it's on us to tell them why and to leave it to them. Okay, here's a couple other ways we can highlight um, the donation experience. You can have a pop-up prompt. So when someone clicks give now, just have a little pop-up that comes up and says, hey, before we process your one-time gift, would you consider doing this 365 days a year? Yes, convert me to a $10 monthly gift instead of 75, or no thanks, process my original one-time gift. Again, in this particular example, it increased monthly donation significantly as a little pop-up that came up after the fact or after hitting donate. Um, or you could do an upgrade page at the submission. So it's kind of the same thing, but just says when they hit give, it says consider upgrading. No, keep my one-time gift. Donate $19 a month instead of $25 once. So a couple different of ways we can give people the choice or highlight the choice. Another way you could do it is in the receipt. In the donation receipt, would you consider giving monthly at the bottom of that receipt? And give people a couple of different options and have really low amounts because the receipt might not be able to be customized for what they gave. So just keep it low so that you're not feeling like you're asking them for just more money. And then finally, you need this is a principle more than a software tactic you can try is to structure your asks wisely. What I mean by that is if someone is selecting a $50 monthly gift or $50 one-time gift, if they switch over to monthly, you should not keep the default at the amount that they were going to give as one time because you're just asking for more money. And that's not what this is about. We are wanting to give people pause and saying, okay, I was going to give $50 one time. Why are you only wanting $5 a month? Why is that? In this particular example, it has defaulted to 19. I would make it lower. No harm with having a gift array and letting them choose a higher amount. You want to keep the monthly amount close. It can be a little bit higher. $5 a month is $60 a year instead of 50, right? But the point is, you would want to actually create a little bit of cognitive dissonance where the donor is like, wait, why do you want $5 instead of 50? And that gives you an opportunity to say in your value proposition, to tell them your monthly donor value proposition, even as in a sentence, and saying, this will make a bigger impact. In the end, your money will go further. We will be able to do more for the mission with a smaller monthly gift. So that's what's important about structuring your asks wisely and how you default those asks. And again, we're not wanting to ask people to give 12 times more money. We're just wanting them to become a committed donor. A few little bonus tips as well. Test out adding donate monthly as a button on your homepage. Most of us have donate, in the top menu. Put another one next to it, donate monthly. 75% of organizations don't have a unique button for that. And what's interesting psychologically about that is instead of the donor saying, do I want to donate now or not, or ignoring the button because I'm not going to donate now, and it can create a situation where the donor's thinking, well, do I want to give or give monthly? So it changes that choice. Doing so for one organization that added it increased overall donations by 144%. So there's no harm, just add a simple little button. And related to that is create a dedicated recurring donation page. 68% of organizations do not have a specific page for their monthly donors for recurring donations. So if someone clicks give monthly, we'll put them on the monthly donor page so they can see the full value proposition and have a form that's focused on that monthly donation. And you can go into a lot more detail about monthly donations on that page and then keep your general donation page, more general. And then finally, if you can, include ACH as a payment method, if your technology allows it. 29% of organizations don't offer it. And I think maybe it's obvious, but the reason you want to get your monthly donors on ACH is that every time credit cards expire, you risk losing them. And for reasons that they might want to be a monthly donor still, but they might just miss the fact that their card expired. They might not see your emails telling them to update it. Some software does do some credit card updating automatically. They can, but it's not perfect. So if you can get someone, a new donor, a new monthly donor, you send them an email 2 weeks after they start that says, hey, would you switch over to ACH? Here's why it's in your interest to do that. We'll have less fees. More of your money will go toward the impact. And if your credit card expires, we won't have to bother you to update it because you'll just be set up for a monthly debit. And if you do it right, soon after they've signed up, they're still thinking about you as the nonprofit they just started supporting regularly. It's not so far out. They're still new in their habits. It's not the same day that you're trying to, you just want them when they're signing up, make it easy, let them use the credit card, but then convert them to ACH soon after that. So those are some tips, strategies to start getting monthly donors. And now I want to go into this campaign that I want to share with you, a 5-part email series to take those one-time donors at year end or any new donors you've had in the last few months and convert them to recurring. Because, hey, this is still within the early enough stage for these people that they're not quite as set in their ways and how they want to continue to support your mission. So go through this 5-part email series. So in the first email, you want to thank them. Thank them for their past gift, the year end or their first time gift. Tell them a story that shows what they accomplished. So that is the key focus of this email, just appreciating them and highlighting what they gave. If you can do this, pull in the exact amount they gave. If your email marketing is connected to your CRM, or if you can, download the segment that you're going to send this to. I do recommend sending this to a segment of your donors. Again, the ones who gave a small gift at year end, maybe those who gave 500 or 1,000 or less as a one-time gift at year end, or anyone who is new and again gave a small gift. So you can download those people from your CRM. If you can get those exact amounts in their email profile, then you can plug that in to those emails automatically to be more specific to what they gave. And I'll explain why that's important in the next email. And then let them know, besides the impact and thank you, let them know what to expect. Say, we want to tell you more about our plans this year, about what we want to accomplish, and about the community of people who believe in our mission like you, who are helping us to accomplish these goals and these plans this year. In the second email, you are going to tie back to the gift that they gave what your appeal is. But before you get into the appeal, you're going to just tell a made-up story. You're going to say, look, imagine you won a prize of $120,000 and you could receive it all at once or as a $10,000 monthly gift. Which one would you choose? Then share why your organization might choose, and a lot of the times, maybe not in every situation or season, to take the monthly gift. Because if you get a surprise big gift of $120,000, you have a lot of pressure to figure out what to do with that. And you can't plan in the same way if you don't know if that money's coming back ever again. So you could do something good with it, but you can't forecast and plan the same way. It's just like, well, maybe this is an emergency fund, but if you get a $10,000 monthly gift, you can start to plan what you want to accomplish because you can forecast and you can budget in a very different way. And so then you can transition to your appeal. Hey, you gave us a gift of $250 at the end of 2025. If you think you might want to give $250 again at the end of 2026, would you consider giving us just a $25 monthly gift starting now? And here's why. We're not asking you for more money. Not really, a little bit more because of the 12 months of the year, but that's not the point. We're wanting you to give the same amount, but split it up. And I'm going to go into why over the next couple of days, why that will make a bigger impact and why that will be more meaningful to you and do more of what you want to see happen by simply giving the same amount and splitting it up. So you can have a light appeal linked to your donation page, but don't push it too hard. The point here is to get them to stop and think, wait, would I want to give to them again at the end of the year, okay, well, I'm curious to hear why they think a $25 monthly gift is more meaningful than just giving again the same amount. So in the next email, we talk about the difficulty of forming habits and say, hey, every gym knows people love to come to the gym in January, and they know that in February, most people aren't coming back because it's really hard to form a habit. And that's the power of an automated action that you don't have to form a habit for. So if you believe in this mission, if that's something you care about and you want to keep giving to it, then don't try to form the habit of remembering to do this whenever it comes up to you and whenever it's important to you. You can make this a habit and make it automated. And you will spend less time and think like having to remember to do this. And we will spend less time fundraising and less guesswork in our budgeting and more work on the impact you want to see. In email number 4, have a couple monthly donor testimonials, either written or a video that you can share. And you just want to show who the people are who believe in this mission and own it and say, we are committed to this mission. We want to see this happen. And again, you're showing people who like are everyday monthly donors. Hey, we give $30 a month, right? We give $50 a month, whatever that amount is. Let them say the amount they give if they're willing to share it. It's not about like making them look so great. It's just saying, I'm a regular person. I'm like you. And this is why I support monthly. What we're tapping into here is something that, as a concept that Seth Godin has summarized really well. He says, people like us do things like this. And so if you, as a donor, if you connect with people like us, then you should be part of this. That's the invitation. If you see yourself like us, if this is something you care about, then you should be part of this community. And then finally, you can make your strongest appeal in email number 5. Again, you definitely can have and should have a donation link in emails 2 through 5, but you can have your strongest appeal in this one. And this is where you want to get really specific. And you say, look, here are our plans for 2026 and beyond as an organization. We have a short-term plan that we want to accomplish in the next 6 months. This is what it's going to take. This is what we want to raise to accomplish it. And then here's a long-term plan. This is also what we want to do. Now, if we can only pick one of these two things to make reality and to do based on our budget, which one would you pick? Hit reply and let us know. Let us know which one we should prioritize. We want to know as our donor, as our steward of this, as the owner of this mission, as your stewards, what should we do? What should we really put our effort into? However, if we can get X number of monthly donors at this amount this month, we can accomplish both because we know we'll get this amount in the short term that will help us plan for the short-term goal. And we also will know we have enough support that we can plan and forecast our budget long-term to start moving forward on the long-term goal as well. So you can create a deadline. You can create a specific amount. If you're able to do this with your organization and with your mission, where you can set out 2 different goals, a short-term and a long-term, then you can create some urgency because it's honest, it's real urgency based on what you want to accomplish. Now, of course, some of these things could still be accomplished later in the future, but the point is to say, look, we can do both the short term and the long term at the same time by simply getting people to join as monthly donors. We're not looking for you to give a huge amount of money. We just need a bunch of people to give a small amount of money in a committed way. So as I wrap up and we get closer to Q&A, let's review the key takeaways. Your value proposition is the key message to attract donors, period. But especially if we make one specific for monthly recurring donors, we can attract them and help overcome that barrier of them asking, well, why should I give you a monthly gift? Don't you just want more money? And the best way to do that is to understand our donors and to actively listen to them and let them help us craft a message that's going to get other donors to respond. Finally, we can convert one-time donors into recurring donors as soon as possible through optimizing our donation experience and especially honoring the structuring the asks wisely and giving people a choice, but highlighting why they should do that and making it easy with our technology. And then finally, we can use this email campaign in Q2 to start getting new and small donors, people who gave once at the end of the year, people who are new, to become monthly donors for us this year. So here's your next step before we go to Q&A. Go to this QR code. It'll take you to Beeline GPT. It's our custom GPT for nonprofits built on our content. It'll ask you for what your website is, just so it has a little more understanding of who your organization is. And then it'll ask you, like, what's your biggest marketing question or issue? And it can create a custom digital resource for you. And then when you're done creating it, you can ask it, you can have it give you some more details or edit it or change it. You can have it just, you can click a button and have it email it to you directly. Now, here's something cool. If you, once you give it your email and your website so that it knows a little bit more about who you are, you can just say, can you send me the link to the monthly donor templates and, or the monthly donation campaign? And it will send you a link that you can access, and it will have email templates for this entire campaign that I just shared with you that you can just use and then adapt and customize for your mission that are ready to use right now, starting in the next few days. So you can ask for that link from the GPT. And the cool thing about that link is it has a bunch of other free resources in it that you can access. So it'll have all the stuff, but it has those monthly donor templates right there. After it emails you your custom resource, you can actually reply to that email and it'll go to me. And if you have issues, if it doesn't create what you were expecting, or if you need some more help or support, just let me know. I want to make sure that what it's creating for you is actually valuable. And again, you can reach me at chris@yourbeeline.com if for some reason you don't get anything, because in the past, this has occasionally stopped working. It's pretty consistent, but I just wanted to mention that. Please email me if you don't get what you're looking for. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What questions do you have for me today? And again, I thank you for your time and joining me.
Chris, thank you so much. This has been so awesome, informative, and I love how data-backed it was. Like I loved all the stats that you had to share with us. So I'm excited to dive into some questions for you with you. So make sure you put your questions in the Q&A box. But really quick before we do that, I do want to if you have a question that you think might be better suited for a one-on-one conversation and are curious to know about Bonterra's tools and how they might align with what Chris just presented, or if you want Chris to contact you directly, I'm going to launch a poll here, and those are some options for the selections that you can make. And just a note that nonprofit or Network for Good is for smaller nonprofits, and then Every Action is for larger nonprofits if you're clicking one of those in the poll. Um, all right, and I think we have a few, or at least one in the Q&A so far. So we'll get to that, and as hopefully people will add more in there. So Sam says he's curious to hear your thoughts about extra incentives for new recurring donors or monthly donor benchmark rewards, like some organizational swag when they sign up or when they have been a monthly donor for like 6 months or a year, etc., like giving them rewards for that.
Yeah, I don't have good data on that, Sam, regarding extra incentives. But I do think there's, one of the examples, screenshots I shared, it had Wounded Warrior Project, and their monthly donor ask came with like a throw blanket. So they're a big organization. They've been doing this a long time. They're very successful. I don't think the thing is your ultimate incentive you should be why your value proposition, why the donor really wants to give. But having incentives isn't a bad idea. It can help just give that little nudge of appreciation, of belonging, of connection with other people, of reminders of your organization. So I think that it's definitely, if you can pull it off, it's definitely a good idea. And having, I think, when people sign up, that's the most common thing to do. But doing or appreciating your monthly donors out of the blue, just because they're committed, is something that's hugely overlooked. Thanking them for being monthly donors on an ongoing basis. If you send them something, that's going to increase your retention rate among monthly donors significantly. So I definitely encourage you to consider some kind of, swag or other organizational extra incentives. Um,
Okay.
Someone else wrote in I want to answer that question before I lose. A Smell says, the appeal campaign, would this be multiple emails to send out? I'm afraid folks would unsubscribe before the ask. Um, I think, and Roger asks a related question, what's the recommended cadence of emails? I would send them once every couple days. Um, because you want to create enough curiosity. I mean, you could send them daily. You want to create enough curiosity in that first email and in the second email that they want to read the rest. You're not giving strong hard appeals here. You're telling them why they would want to consider giving the same amount this year, but splitting it up. And And so, and you're talking about your goals and the things that you want to, that the organization wants to accomplish together with them. Um, and so, however you write the templates, the ultimate goal is to split up the different ways that you can give them that monthly donor value proposition from different angles with that appeal that really focuses on what they already gave. Yes, people will unsubscribe from appeal emails, but you're not. The reason people unsubscribe is you feels like you're the uncle who's coming up to them and tapping them on the shoulder asking for money again. Instead of having an intelligent like conversation that honors them and respects them and is interesting. You're telling them, I mean, tell a good story, pique their curiosity about why, like, what, so why do you want us to give a monthly? I mean, there's some element of common sense in that too. Like, oh, I get why you'd want me. But again, if we're really clear about we're not asking for more money, then that can be that question of like, okay, what's the difference between me giving once a year, every year, and giving monthly? What's really the difference there? Um, I think that answers the question. So I think, or regarding of cadence, like I would do it daily or every couple days.
Great.
Elizabeth asks, is there a risk of monthly donation increases diluting end of year fundraising? Um, from the data I know, I don't think so because monthly donors tend to give what was the stat 42% more than one-time donors. If you did this campaign right at year end, some of those people who gave monthly at year end who join as monthly donors might not give a larger one-time gift instead. They might just give you the monthly gift, but in the end, you'll probably end up with raising more money, even if it's not at year end. Um, so yeah, and I think the key with monthly donors too is you don't want to you want to exclude them from most of your appeals. You might include them in a year-end appeal or some other important one, but most of your appeals they should be excluded from.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for including enhancements for direct mailers? Definitely for like sending special ones to your monthly givers as a perk, just as a report, as a identity thing, as a we do this only for our monthly donors. We send out this special mailing. Definitely do that. Regarding like sending it out as part of the campaign, I don't have a lot of experience with direct mail, but I think if you have a very clear, good list of one-time donors or new donors sending them a piece of direct mail. Again, if you have a very specific list, I don't think that could hurt, adding that to the email campaign. I think, again, reaching people in multiple channels is a really good way to help people be aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have more direct experience with that I can speak to. Suzanne, okay, Suzanne, you asked a great question. I recently caught up on thank you people for recurring donations and found it prompted some people to cancel because they forgot they'd been making the donation. I mean, people are going to do that. The best way to avoid that is the prevention rather than the cure, which is they need to feel thanked and appreciated and part of something long before they want to or start thinking about canceling. But Charity Water recently talked about a great strategy. Um, I think it was Charity Water, um, which was to give people the option, especially if your technology allows it, to pause their
Mm.
monthly donation instead of cancel. Because when people have the option to pause, they can say, "This is still important to me in the big picture. It's just not the right time right now." And so even the technology can even like prompt them, like you wanted to cancel, well, how about pausing instead? And we'll not unpause unless you come in and choose to do so. But then you can still reach back out to them and say, "Hey, it's been a year. Would you consider unpausing?" So, and there's some data out there on the rate of unpause and restarting. So that would be another way. So again, prevention. Don't let people get to the point where they ever forgot that they were giving to you on a recurring basis in the
Yeah.
first place. Let them know. Let them feel so loved and appreciated they would never forget. Um, what is your response rate for the post donations survey? I don't have the data on that. I just did it for an organization. Actually, last time we did it was for Connected Families. We did it in December 2024. So the year-end donations. We used all that feedback to craft their monthly donation page. And in March of 2025, they launched their monthly donor community for the first time, and they had 160 people join in 6 weeks. So I'd say it worked for them. And anytime we've done a survey like this where we've collected our donors' feedback or even like subscribers' feedback and reuse that language and those emotions and those the things that were important to them in the copy, it made a huge difference.
Great. Hoya asks, how can I ask for monthly donors and have a communal feel?
Um, that's a really good question. Because I feel like there's a lot of talk about this and it can be a little bit manufactured. And I don't have a fully good answer. Um, because real community is created by real relationships, and that's created in person, face to
Mm.
face. But there is an element of saying, like, we can't if we can talk about it as a community, but we need to keep it focused on the mission, like saying we're on a mission together. Like, we're not a personal community, we are a community of philanthropists. We are a community of people who own this value, we share this value, and this value is what holds us together. And we have a specific action toward this value. Like, we are engaged with what's happening in the world. We understand the problem, or we're looking for people who know more about the problem and how to address it. And we're doing what we can together to address it. So it has to have a business-like element to it that just can't be helped. Otherwise, you're just pretending. Unless you personally know donors, right? That's different. But we're just talking about like in a general like monthly donor appeal and community sense, how you're talking to them. You can add to that though by if you can create opportunities for donors to connect with one another, if you can let them share their testimonials, they can hear from other monthly donors why it's important to them. And if you, I think another thing is just like identity as a nonprofit. Do we really truly see ourselves as the steward? Not this is our mission. This is your mission. Like, we are not doing anything unless you, donor, want this to happen. This is a mission that you can make real in the world. We'll only fulfill your, we're a fiduciary. We have this experience and expertise to know how to approach solving a problem. And it makes sense for us to be an organization because we can retain that expertise and those connections and those relationships to make this solution real. But ultimately, it's not anything without you who owns it, you, the philanthropist. So I think if we have that identity, that can help bring about more of a communal feel because our donors can see themselves as you guys are you're ultimately the shareholders and you're the owners and you are the ones who make this happen. And we try to communicate with you what we're trying to do and what needs to happen or what we need to raise in order to make that happen, or what other things need to happen in order to make this reality. So hopefully that answers your question.
I think that was great. It looks like we've covered all of the questions that are in the Q&A box right now, and I think we got the one that was in the chat. So I'm gonna give everyone just like one more minute if they have anything coming up, and if not, we can wrap up.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining. And again, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Well, nothing coming through that I'm seeing, just lots of thank yous. Yeah, and again, I just want to say thank you so much, Krish. This was such a great presentation. And like I said, I'll be sending out the recording to everyone who registered. So you'll be getting that in your inbox in a few days. Um, oh, we got one more from Suzanne. She said, did I miss the recommendations for how often to thank recurring donors?
Um, more,
Yeah,
more. Like, it won't hurt you to thank them monthly. It won't hurt you to thank them monthly.
yeah.
That's definitely that's a big there's a big gap in our industry for thanking donor monthly, especially monthly donors. So
Can never thank too much. Um, okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And it was such a pleasure to have you, Chris, this afternoon. And thank
thank
you,
you.
everyone, for your time and engagement. And we look forward to seeing you at our next session. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and take care.
Bye.